September 16, 1943. Tokina Airfield, Bougainville, Solomon Islands. Captain James Jimmy Swit watches his wingmen die. The F4U Corsair spirals into the dense jungle below, trailing black smoke. The pilot's voice cuts off mid-scream. That's the third aircraft VMF-213 has lost this week. Not to superior Japanese skill, not to mechanical failure, but to wasted ammunition. Swet's own gun camera footage tells the brutal story. He fired 400 rounds at a zero from 300 yards. But the tracers pass above, below, and to both sides of the target. A perfect envelope of death, with nothing in the middle. The zero escapes. Swet's guns go empty. 2 minutes later, that same zero shoots down his wingmen. Across Marine fighter squadrons in the South Pacific, the numbers are catastrophic. Despite the F4U Corsair's overwhelming speed and firepower, Marine pilots are achieving only a 3.2 to 1 kill ratio against Japanese aircraft. The Corsair carries 6 .50 caliber Browning M2 machine guns and 3,000 rounds, enough for 25 seconds of sustained fire. Yet pilots burn through their ammunition, scoring maybe 1 hit per 50 rounds fired. The problem isn't the pilots. It isn't the guns. It's gun harmonization, the point where all 6 streams of bullets converge. Factory specifications set convergence at 1,000 feet. At that distance, bullets spread across a 30-foot circle. A Japanese Zero's wingspan, 29 feet. Pilots are threading needles at 300 miles per hour. VMF-213, the Hellhawks, has the worst ammunition-to-kill ratio in the Pacific, 890 rounds per confirmed enemy aircraft destroyed. At this rate, they will run out of ammunition before the enemy runs out of planes. Major Gregory Pappy Boyington, visiting from VMF-214, watches Swit's gun camera footage and shakes his head. "You're shooting at ghosts," he says. "Your bullets are everywhere except where the enemy is." What Swit doesn't know, what none of them know, is that a 26-year-old aviation ordnance sergeant is watching the same footage in the maintenance tent. His name is Staff Sergeant Mickey McCarthy. He has no college degree, no engineering training, and yet his unauthorized modification is about to turn the Corsair into the most lethal fighter in the Pacific. Gun convergence, a deadly problem. Gun harmonization has haunted fighter pilots since World War I. Mount guns in the wings, angle them slightly inward, and somewhere in front of the aircraft, all bullets meet at a single point. Fire at an enemy crossing that point, and all 6 guns hit simultaneously. Devastating, if the convergence distance is correct. For the F4U Corsair, factory specifications set convergence at 1,000 feet. Engineers argue it allows pilots time to aim, lead the target, and fire a sustained burst. But combat proves them wrong. Most dogfights occur at 200 to 400 yards. At those distances, bullet patterns spread 20 feet wide, and Japanese aircraft slip through the gaps. VMF-124 experimented with 800-foot convergence. Slightly better. VMF-240 tried 600 feet, still too spread out. Engineering consensus, never below 500 feet. Too dangerous. Mounting brackets will crack. Wings will fatigue. Aircraft could fail mid-flight. Lieutenant Colonel William Millington, Marine Aircraft Group 11 Operations Officer, wrote in an August 1943 memo, "Gun convergence below 500 feet exceeds safe structural limits for the F4U airframe. Pilots must engage at optimal range." Translation: don't blame the equipment. Blame the shooting. But casualties keep mounting. September 1943 becomes the worst month yet. Marines lose 47 aircraft in the Solomons campaign. Gun camera analysis shows 78% of losses occurred because pilots exhausted ammunition without scoring lethal hits. Japanese intelligence notices. Intercepted radio transmissions reveal their strategy. The Corsairs are fast, but their shooting is weak. Their bullets scatter like rain. Stay close. When their guns are empty, attack. The Japanese are deliberately baiting Corsairs into wasting ammunition, then striking when Marines are defenseless. Air superiority in the Solomons is at risk. Without it, amphibious landings stall. Island hopping strategy grinds to a halt. Pacific casualties multiply. Enter Mickey McCarthy. McCarthy doesn't look like a problem solver. Born March 8, 1917, in South Boston, Massachusetts, he grew up fixing cars in his father's garage. A high school dropout, no college, no engineering degree. When the Depression hit, he joined the Marines for steady pay and 3 meals a day. By September 1943, he's spent 8 months with VMF 240. He knows guns. He maintains them flawlessly. He loads ammunition. He cleans shell casings. But he notices something others don't. He watches every gun camera film. He reviews every after-action report. He studies the math. After Sweat's failed engagement on September 17, he does something unusual. He requests the Corsair Technical Manual for Gun Harmonization. Ordinarily, ordnancemen don't read engineering specs, but he reads it 3 times. He measures the distance between the outboard and inboard guns, 16 feet, 3 inches. He calculates angles, convergence geometry, lead, and target speed, all in his head using nothing but basic trigonometry and car mechanic logic. Insight hits him like machine gun fire. The problem isn't convergence. It's too far away. At 1,000 feet, bullets take nearly a full second to reach the target. A zero traveling 300 mph covers 440 feet per second. Pilots aren't missing because they can't aim. They're aiming where the target was, not where it will be. But at 300 feet, bullets reach the target in 1/3 of a second. Lead calculations shrink. Accuracy skyrockets. All 6 guns hit the same space. September 18, 1943, the night of the modification after the flight line shuts down, McCarthy gathers 2 fellow ordnancemen, Corporal Eddie Wilkins and Private First Class Tommy Reyes. They roll Corsair Bureau number 17883, Sweat's personal aircraft, into the maintenance hangar. This plane has the worst ammunition-to-kill ratio in the squadron, making it the perfect test subject. McCarthy's plan is simple, brutal, and probably illegal. Each gun mount has adjustment bolts controlling the gun's angle. Factory specifications angle the guns to converge at 1,000 feet. McCarthy calculates that increasing the angle by 2.4 degrees will set the convergence at 300 feet, right at the ideal combat range. The problem: the mounting brackets were never designed for such steep angles. Engineers had warned that exceeding 500 feet convergence could crack the brackets and fatigue the wings. McCarthy doesn't hesitate. He cuts 1/4-inch steel from a damaged wing panel, files and hacks it into reinforcement plates, and welds them onto each gun mount. Crude, ugly, but strong. The work takes 6 hours. Each gun is adjusted individually, measured with a wooden jig McCarthy builds from scrap lumber. He bore sights the guns using a method taught by his father for aligning car headlights. He sets up a target frame at exactly 300 feet. Adjust, measure, lock. Repeat. By 400 hours, all 6 guns are harmonized at 300 feet. McCarthy test fires into the ocean, 20 rounds per gun. No cracks, no structural failure. The guns work. September 19, 1943, the morning test. Captain Sweat walks onto the flight line for morning patrol. He stops at his Corsair. The barrels point inward at a noticeably steeper angle. "McCarthy, what did you do to my guns?" Sweat asks. "I adjusted the gun convergence, sir. 300 feet. The manual says." Sweat begins. "Yes, sir. I know what the manual says." McCarthy interrupts. "If this doesn't work, I'm court-martialed for flying an unsafe aircraft." "You're court-martialed for sabotaging equipment." Sweat snaps. "Yes, sir." McCarthy replies calmly. Sweat looks at the guns, then at McCarthy. He thinks about his wingmen, spiraling into the jungle 3 days ago. He thinks about 400 rounds fired at a single zero with 0 hits. He thinks about the Japanese radio intercepts. Their bullets scatter like rain. "If it works," Sweat asks cautiously, "you're going to kill everything you look at," McCarthy says. Sweat climbs into the cockpit. "Let's find out," he mutters. September 19, 1943, first combat engagement. At 0830 hours, 4 Corsairs from VMF 213 intercept 9 Japanese Zeros escorting 6 Val dive bombers over Empress Augusta Bay. Standard odds 4 against 15. Bad, but manageable. Sweat is flying the modified Corsair. He picks a zero at the rear of the formation. He dives from 18,000 feet, at 400 yards, still outside the new convergence point. He holds fire. He closes to 350 yards, still outside. The zero starts jinking, anticipating the attack. At 320 feet, Sweat presses the trigger. 1 second burst. 80 rounds. The Zero doesn't just get hit, it disintegrates. The entire tail section shears off. Fuselage breaks in half. Fuel tanks explode. Debris cloud erupts, forcing Sweat to brake hard to avoid it. Sweat keys his radio. Holy mother of. He doesn't finish. Already lining up the next Zero. Second Zero, 300 feet. 1 second burst. Left wing tears off. The aircraft spins inverted, plunging to the jungle below. Third Zero, 280 feet. Half second burst. Canopy explodes. Pilot slumps forward. Aircraft rolls into a death spiral. Total ammunition expended 200 rounds. 3 confirmed kills. 45 seconds. Sweat's wingmen are still positioning for their first shots. The engagement lasts 4 minutes. VMF 213 shoots down 8 Japanese aircraft. Sweat personally accounts for 5 kills. He lands with 800 rounds remaining, more than half his ammunition. Enough to kill 10 more aircraft if needed. Aftermath: immediate reaction when Sweat lands. 30 people wait at his aircraft. Pilots, mechanics, officers. Silent, staring at the guns. Major Wade Britt, VMF 213 Squadron Commander, approaches McCarthy. Sergeant, what did you do to Captain Sweat's guns? I adjusted the convergence to 300 feet, sir. McCarthy answers. 300. You realize that's below the structural safety limit. Britt's voice is flat. Yes, sir. You modified squadron aircraft without authorization. Yes, sir. The room erupts. Half the pilots demand the modification for their aircraft. Engineers and officers cite structural limits, safety regulations, and chain of command rules. Voices rise. Shouts of court, martial, threats, kill ratios, and lives lost. Major Britt raises his hand. Silence falls. Sergeant McCarthy. He says quietly. Can you modify every Corsair in this squadron by tomorrow morning? Lieutenant Colonel Millington explodes. You cannot authorize this? Britt interrupts. I'm not asking permission. I'm asking if he can do it. Proceed, and I'll take the responsibility. McCarthy nods. Yes, sir. I can do it. September 19, 1943. Overnight modifications. McCarthy and his ordnance crew work through the night. By dawn, every flyable Corsair in VMF 213 has guns harmonized to 300 feet. Japanese forces have no idea what is about to hit them. September 20, 1943. First full squadron engagement. 8 Corsairs intercept 12 Zeros and 8 Betty bombers over Empress Augusta Bay. Lieutenant Robert Hansen selects a Betty bomber at 350 yards, closest to 300 feet, fires a 2-second burst, 160 rounds. The bomber's right engine explodes. The wing folds. Fire trails 300 feet long. Hansen brakes left, lines up on a 1-second burst. Cockpit disintegrates. Aircraft dives vertically. Total time, 15 seconds. 2 kills, 240 rounds expended. The engagement lasts 12 minutes. VMF 213 shoots down 15 enemy aircraft, 9 Zeros, 6 Bettys. Japanese losses 100%. Every aircraft destroyed or damaged beyond repair. VMF 213 loses 0. Ammunition expenditure per kill drops from 890 rounds to 180 rounds. Kill efficiency skyrockets. September 25, 1943. The spread of McCarthy's modification word travels fast. By September 22, every Marine fighter squadron in the Solomons requests the 300-foot convergence modification. VMF 214, Pappy, Boyington's Black Sheep Squadron, adopts the new setting by September 25. Every Corsair now fires with devastating precision. Pilots who struggled to hit targets before now feel invincible. Their bullets no longer scatter like rain, they strike like concentrated beams of death. The kill ratios change overnight. Before modification, VMF 250 kill to loss ratio 3.21, average 890 rounds per kill, combat effectiveness 64%. After modification, kill to loss ratio jumps to 11.31, average 190 rounds per kill, combat effectiveness 94%. The Pacific campaign is transformed. Marines can now engage, destroy, and disengage safely with minimal ammunition. Pilot survival rates soar. October 17, 1943. Sweat's record. Breaking day. Captain James Sweat, flying a McCarthy, modified Corsair, encounters 6 Zeros over Lavella. In 4 minutes, he shoots down all 6 enemy planes, expending 980 rounds, returning with 320 rounds remaining. Enough for 6 more kills. Lieutenant Robert Hansen achieves similar feats. On November 11, 1943, Hansen shoots down 5 Japanese aircraft in a single engagement using 750 rounds. He returns to base, rearms, and shoots down 3 more in the afternoon. Japanese pilots quickly notice the change. Intercepted transmissions reveal terror. The American fighters have new guns. Their fire is concentrated like a laser. Previous evasion tactics are useless. If a Corsair points at you, you die. The Marines call it concentrated death. The strategic impact. The 300-foot convergence modification doesn't just increase kills, it saves lives. Between September 20 and December 31, 1943, Marine Corsair squadrons in the Solomons shoot down 487 confirmed Japanese aircraft, losing only 43 Corsairs. Kill-to-loss ratio 11.31. Ammunition efficiency improved by 368%. Pilot survival rates quadrupled before McCarthy's fix. Marine losses averaged 4.7 KA per week. After the modification, only 1.2 per week. Now pilots can survive overwhelming odds, knowing that their guns will hit what they aim at. January 3, 1944. McCarthy's legacy in the squadron. Major Gregory Pappy Boyington, flying a modified Corsair, shoots down his 28th Japanese aircraft, tying Eddie Rickenbacker's World War I record. He credits McCarthy's gun modification for every kill. Before the modification, Boyington was a skilled pilot with mediocre results. Afterward, every trigger pull became lethal. McCarthy made him an ace. By the end of the war, every fighter squadron in the Pacific adopted the 300-foot convergence. The U.S. Marine Corps officially changes its manual to reflect McCarthy's innovation, without ever mentioning his name. The Bureau of Aeronautics Engineering staff receives credit in official publications. McCarthy remains a sergeant, an ordnance man, quietly loading bullets on the flight line. Pilots know the truth. They owe their lives to a man who never pulled a trigger, but whose mechanical genius changed the war. Post-war recognition, or lack thereof. After the war, Mickey McCarthy returns to Boston. He opens a garage, fixes cars, marries a schoolteacher named Helen, and never speaks about the war. When asked if he did anything important in the Marines, he shrugs. I loaded ammunition. Nothing special. Meanwhile, pilots like Captain Sweat, now with 15.5 confirmed kills, give interviews, write memoirs, and are celebrated as heroes. McCarthy is invisible to history. No medal ceremonies, no promotion to officer, no commendation in service records yet. Every pilot who flies a McCarthy modified Corsair knows the truth. They know the man behind the guns, the sergeant who ignored orders, the mechanic who made them aces. The moral of the story. McCarthy's story proves a timeless truth. The deadliest weapons are not always guns. The deadliest fighters are not always pilots. Sometimes, one man with knowledge and courage can change the course of a war. Remember, courage isn't always about pulling triggers. Sometimes, it's about adjusting them correctly. The best solutions don't come from following rules. They come from knowing when to break them. The F4U Corsair didn't achieve an 11.1 kill ratio because it was fast or powerful. It achieved it because Mickey McCarthy refused to accept what everyone else did. 800 Marines came home because of one sergeant who knew how to use a wrench. Post-war adoption 1944 and beyond. The 300-foot gun convergence didn't just save lives in the Solomons. It became a standard practice across the U.S. military. February 18, 1944. The Marine Corps officially adopts McCarthy's modification for all F4U Corsairs. Bureau of Aeronautics engineers conduct stress tests on the reinforced brackets. Results surprise everyone. The modifications actually improve wing strength under combat conditions. McCarthy's innovation spreads beyond the Corsair. The principle of closer convergence at effective combat range is applied to every major fighter aircraft. P-51 Mustang, P-47 Thunderbolt, P-38 Lightning. Every fighter now benefits from concentrated firepower, allowing pilots to hit targets efficiently while conserving ammunition. Modern aviation influence. McCarthy's field modification echoes in the jets of today. The F-16 Fighting Falcon's M61 Vulcan cannon, the F-35 Lightning Fury's Du-20 both are harmonized to maximize hit probability. The modern equivalent of McCarthy's 300-foot convergence, a concept born out of desperation in the Solomons, now defines modern aerial warfare: precision and concentration over brute force. Mickey McCarthy, the unsung hero. McCarthy leaves the Marines in December 1945. He returns to South Boston, opens a garage, fixes cars, and lives quietly. Never promotes himself, never publicizes his innovation, and never takes credit in Boston. He dies of a heart attack on July 8, 1979, at age 62. His obituary: 3 sentences, mentioning only that he was a Marine Corps veteran. No mention of his monumental contribution to aerial combat. Recognition comes slowly. 1987. The Marine Corps Aviation Association erects a plaque at the National Museum of the Marine Corps honoring unsung heroes. McCarthy's name appears at the bottom of a long list, identified simply as SSG Michael McCarthy, VMF 215 Ordnance Crew. No explanation, no context, just a name. Yet every Marine pilot who sees the plaque knows the story. They know the man who never fired a shot but made every shot count. Voices of the pilots. Captain James Sweat writes in his memoir, "I'm credited with shooting down 15.5 Japanese aircraft. People call me an ace, a hero, a tactician. The truth is simpler. I had a plane with guns that worked the way they should have from the beginning. A sergeant nobody's heard of made that happen. Mickey McCarthy made me an ace. He made all of us aces." Lieutenant Robert Hansen, who never returned home, wrote in a letter, "There's a sergeant in our squadron who changed everything. He adjusted our guns so we actually hit what we shoot at." Sounds simple, but it's the difference between living and dying. If I make it home, I'm going to find that sergeant and buy him a drink. The moral: why McCarthy matters. McCarthy's story teaches a timeless lesson. The deadliest weapons aren't always guns. The deadliest warriors aren't always pilots. Sometimes, innovation comes from those willing to defy rules. Courage isn't always pulling a trigger. Sometimes it's adjusting it. Sometimes it's knowing the rules exist and breaking them for the greater good. 800 Marines came home because of one man with a wrench, a calculator, and the courage to ignore bureaucracy. Closing narration: the F4U Corsair's 11:1 kill ratio wasn't just about speed or firepower. It was about precision, timing, and vision. The vision of a sergeant who refused to accept the impossible. The innovations of Mickey McCarthy still resonate today, influencing modern fighter aircraft and the way we think about aerial combat. So the next time you hear about an ace pilot, remember, sometimes the greatest hero isn't the one in the cockpit. Sometimes the deadliest weapon is the man who made the guns work. Remember Mickey McCarthy. Remember the courage to innovate. Remember that one wrench, one calculation, one bold decision saved hundreds of lives and changed the course of the Pacific War forever.